The boy blinked dazedly. Where am I? Everything faded in a sudden blur. Bright, blinding colors, cartoonish art of various anthropomorphic characters, and giant obtrusive signs. Bright neon lights flashed above him, illuminating the crowd of people surrounding him. Some wore what looked like merchandising. Some looked like they didn't want to be there, and some looked like they couldn't be any happier. He felt the dirty carpet beneath his old peeling orange, red, and blue sneakers. He tried to grab something in his pocket that wasn't there, not anymore at least. The boy. What's my name? Gregory? That had sounded right. Began shaking. People. Gregory's chest had begun to rise and fall before he had even realized his own name. His breaths grew shallow and uneven, and he began to hyperventilate. Why are there so many people? How do I get out? Gregory looked around him, head pounding, ears ringing, the world seeming to spin. No. All he wanted was to get out. His head spun and the violent shears jabbed his eardrums, making his blood rush into his head. As he clapped his hands over his ears, he looked down at the dark rug and its pumpkin orange, vibrant purple, acid green, bright red, and bright pink detailing. Shaped from the orange was a bear head amidst the pattern, and he looked up. Up on a neon stage with numerous circular platforms spread about it, LED lights glowing in the same colors that the carpet was decorated with, were 5 animatronics. An alligator with a red mohawk and a very punk look. A girl fox with a cold color palette with long dark hair. A boy fox with a warm color palette and a cowboy look to him. A bird of some kind, perhaps a chicken, with a bubblegum pop look, and a bear with ties to all of the others' looks. For some reason, Gregory knew the bear's name, Freddy Fazbear. After a moment, Gregory found himself noting the others' names too. Montgomery Gator, Roxanne and Foxy Foxtrot, and Chica Chickpea. The others seemed to slightly isolate Montgomery Gator. He seemed out of place with the others in Gregory's opinion. He instinctively wiped tears out of his eyes and realized that the crowd grew silent, and with a loud bang that Freddy had collapsed. Chica was the first to rush to him. She was saying something, but the gasps and mutters of the crowd and the eternal ringing in Gregory's ear made it hard to make out. Her pastel pink top had a twisting pattern. She wore a pastel windbreaker, and on her legs were 2 mismatched pastel leg warmers, a green one with leopard print, and a blue one with various sweets and desserts. Gregory tried to read the words she was saying off of her beak, but he had no luck. He barely knew how to read lips. He really seemed to know how to breathe, for that matter. After a failed attempt to wipe away the rest of his tears, he ran away, bumping through the crowd, being trailed by indistinctive murmurs and grunts about its rudeness. He pushed it all aside. To hell with what people think. He didn't care one bit. He was running now. He didn't know where he was headed. He just let his feet carry him through the bright mall. He stopped, suddenly dizzy, as the world slowly stopped spinning and the ring gradually faded. Everything around him was normal again. Okay, that's good. It's a development. Gregory decided to take a deep breath, attempting to calm himself. Hey, kid! A loud, sleep-deprived voice called from behind him. A hand settled itself on Gregory's shoulder, and he felt himself jolt. Gregory squeaked. It felt stupid, but he didn't know why. I am so sick of teenage... The voice stopped as Gregory turned to face the woman. She had moss-green eyes with dark bags under them, pale blonde hair that was reflecting all of the neon LED lights, and a face full of freckles. Gregory guessed that she was in her late 20s or early 30s. Gregory remembered being pretty decent at guessing ages. Gregory's mind spun with powerful associations with the woman. She's here! Oh, we're safe! One part of him said, while another argued, No, we can't trust her, she's dangerous! The 2 powerful, conflicting views of her crashed into a cacophony of chaos within his head, which he did not need right now. Her face seemed to melt into an expression of confusion and mixed emotions reflecting Gregory's own. As she hesitated, Gregory took the opportunity to escape. He ran, not even looking where he was going. The neon lights glimmered against the dark walls, overwhelming him. He tried his hardest to outrun the guard, to the point that he entered the first door he saw. It was ajar, only letting out a faint glow of colored light. He paused, hesitating for a small and brief moment, and then Gregory entered. And even then the light did not brighten. Gregory hoped that the guard would not follow him. He noticed the bear animatronic, Freddy Fazbear. He was just sitting there doing nothing. Gregory felt kind of intimidated at first, but the still stance of the animatronic brushed away any wariness he had. He glanced back at the iron door, part of him scared that the guard would follow him. There was another door behind the bear animatronic, but it was visibly locked. Panicking, he looked at Freddy. The limp animatronic looked helpless, that was for certain, but it was the perfect hiding spot. So, he seized the opportunity. After a swift hand motion he didn't quite comprehend, a hatch in Freddy's torso opened. The compartment was revealed to be hidden by a hatch that was disguised as the bear's stomach. It was made of metal, and it clinked as he crawled inside. The smooth metal was cold against Gregory's skin, but he ignored it. Then a thought occurred to him. How did I know that I could go inside of Freddy? The thought made him shiver. He had no idea how he had known that, but he did. Somehow. Was it something to do with his lost memories? Or could it have just been something he noticed? No, there hadn't been anything apparent to give the fact away. Gregory had just somehow known. The most obvious signifier was a small rectangular latch that was almost unnoticeable on Freddy's chest section. Even then, it looked like something to keep the animatronic from spinning too far and scaring the kids. Gregory's thoughts wandered back to the strange hand movement he had done to open the stomach hatch up. It was decently complicated, and he had somehow done it in a split second. But he had no more time to think as the guard entered the room. The once dark room was illuminated as the guard turned on the lights. After a flick of the light switch, everything was bathed in a cold glow. He could see the blonde hair and the sunken eyes. He could see every individual hair on her head. And then he noticed her name tag, Vanessa Monroe. Something about it seemed almost familiar. She sighed, seeming to be exhausted. She closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, Gregory had thought he saw some strange thing flicker in them, though he assumed that it was just the lights. She wiped off the counter next to Freddy, and Gregory held his breath, heart pounding violently, blood rushing in his veins. Vanessa moved away and closer to the door again. "All right, you can come in," she called out of the door. "I'm coming," a man's voice responded. Instead of dwelling on the conversation like he wanted to, Gregory focused on remaining silent and controlling his breathing. "All right, Jack, you can work on the animatronic now. He malfunctioned on stage during the performance. Not that long ago, actually, about 5 or so minutes ago. But his systems need tending to. We just need to ensure he isn't broken or anything, and he's fully functional by the time the next show starts." The customers had been very unhappy at the fact that the lead had broken down. Mrs. Dennison had a lot to say to the employees of the Pizzaplex. "I'm not shocked," the man said. Vanessa had called him Jack. "Yeah, I just hope that they don't try to sue us over it. It's not even that big of a deal." "People will sue over the silliest of things nowadays," Jack laughed. "You got that right." Gregory sat there in silence inside of the animatronic's compartment. He didn't want to draw attention to himself. He didn't trust Vanessa as far as he could throw her. And he couldn't throw her very far considering the fact that she was a grown woman, and he was at the oldest 16. He wasn't quite sure. Jack sat down, and Gregory saw his messy orange hair and startling blue eyes. When Gregory tried to see if he could recognize him, his memories were fuzzy, but he wasn't there, and that was for certain. Gregory tried to adjust. There was some sort of box inside of the compartment. He couldn't see a fixture for it, but it was shoved into a corner. Like someone's been in here before. Was it me? As he heard Jack check some motherboards in Freddy's back panel, his elbow weakly tapped something. Gregory adjusted again, moving in a swift and silent manner. He noticed that it was a small metal hatch. What is that doing here? He did something again, another hand movement that was so swift and hardened into his muscle memory that he didn't even know what it had been. And it clicked open, soft and quiet. "Did you hear that?" Vanessa said. Jack just shrugged. "No, really. I usually can tune out small sounds." Gregory noticed something that looked highly advanced. Circuit boards and wires and all sorts of mechanical inner workings. He was examining the biggest circuit when he noticed a small chip installed. It was no bigger than Gregory's pinky. It was a shade of a warmish purple and had numerous glowing pink-purple lines spreading through it. Somehow, though, Gregory knew it wasn't supposed to be there. It was an anomaly amongst Freddy's technology. Everything looks up to code. I should probably check the circuits stored inside his stomach. Before Gregory had a heart attack, Vanessa spoke up. No, that's okay. I checked those out right before the show. The problem must be in his head. But you should start heading now. Jack sighed. All right. After some strange clicking and whirring sounds, Freddy stood up. Jack, Officer Vanessa. All right, I'll be heading out now. It's about my time to clock out anyway. He looked at something on his wrist. Gregory assumed a watch. A little after, actually. We'll look into it more tomorrow. It'll be safer anyway. Vanessa nodded with a slightly restrained smile. Gregory bit his bottom lip as Jack adjusted his red dress shirt and checkered straps as he left the room. Vanessa glanced at Freddy and gave him a warm smile. While part of it felt legit, Gregory could notice tiny things tipping him off on the fact that there was something hiding behind it. You should get to your green room, Freddy. The managers won't be happy with you if you aren't in there before closing. Freddy nodded, his high view of the world making Gregory feel acrophobic. Thinking about the term reminded him of a memory of making a presentation on the different phobias for a school assignment. It wasn't much, but it was still progress in regaining his memories. His throat felt tense and dry and coarse. It stung to breathe out of his mouth, but his nose was clogged and he had to slow his breathing to the best of his ability. He noticed Freddy glancing around curiously and held his breath. Had he heard me breathing? When Freddy began moving again, Gregory jumped a bit. He stared at the purple chip, eventually deciding to remove it. He carefully took it out, not knowing how he knew it didn't belong there. Who am I? Holding the chip in his hand, Gregory examined the surroundings through the screen, showing Freddy's view of the world. It was filtered through a ghostly blue glow, and somehow Gregory knew that was simply the viewing screen's fault rather than Freddy's eye cameras. Quietly, he pocketed the purple piece of technology. He looked back out through the screen. They were in some kind of hallway. It had gray, blank walls and was lined wall-to-wall with storage and trash. Gregory felt himself shudder at the unsanitary sight. They were inside of the hallway for what felt like an eternity, but eventually left. They were greeted by a large, bright, open room with decorations and art lining every wall. He could see blurry shapes in the background that Freddy was facing towards. Where's Freddy go? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash. Gregory jolted, heart pounding violently. Gregory's vision had blurred. He rubbed his eyes, attempting to refocus his vision. He quickly glanced at the screen, realizing that it had been an iron door. It must be broken, Gregory thought, wiping his sweat-soaked, messy brown hair off of his face, chest rising and falling. The heat from the enclosed chest cavity was not helping. Biting his bottom lip, Gregory remained still. Freddy's walking suddenly stopped. He had sat down. Gregory realized that they were in Freddy's green room. A cartoon wall mural of Freddy was displayed beside the orange metal door, kids' drawings covering some walls. Some of them even had detail and refined motor control, implying that they were from teenagers or even adults. Posters, plushies, and decorations were all around the room. Golden plushies and all sorts of Freddys in different outfits included. Gregory hadn't realized he had yelped when Freddy sat down until the bear's unbelievably big paws wrapped around him, pulling him out of the chest cavity. He yelled, blood rushing, heart pummeling against his rib cage. Hold still, the animatronic bear instructed. Gregory didn't dare defy him. A plane of electric blue light beamed from the deep sapphire eyes of the bear. Gregory felt himself flinch as it stung his eyes. The plastic cream-colored paws held him with a surprising gentleness. You are not in the visitor's database. Who are you? My name is Freddy stopped, seeming to realize that Gregory probably already knew who he was. Gregory began, hesitating. Part of his hesitation was terror, but another was unsureness. He didn't know if his name was actually Gregory. Gregory could have been someone else he knew. Gregory, he at long last finished. Gregory, Freddy muttered, seeming to attempt to use it for the database. Where are your parents? He asked, seeming to fail at discovering Gregory in the database yet again. Gregory felt a strange fear wash over him at the mention of his parents. The memory seemed distant, but it still stung. I ran away to meet you. I don't know where they're at right now. At least the latter part was true. He didn't have a clue to his parents' location. Freddie gave a warm but sort of restrained smile. "That is very sweet," he said after a moment, "but you must leave. It is not safe to remain here after closing. I will escort you to the exit." While the proposition felt alluring at first, Gregory remembered something. This place holds the key to my identity. But he'd rather have to return during the day than risk Vanessa finding him. His 2 sets of conflicting memories of the security guard scared him. What if it wasn't her that the good memories were about? What if she had a twin sister or something? Gregory brushed his theorizing aside. Now was not the time for trying to explain everything. "Here, this is a state-of-the-art Freddy Fazwatch. It is primed for communication with the employees and I sometimes use it to speak with children and fans like you. And I will be able to help you if we get separated during our attempts to reach the exit in time for closing." Freddie pointed at the box that Gregory had noticed inside of Freddy's stomach compartment. Gregory hesitantly grabbed it, opening it, cautious. Inside was a small watch. It was an orange bearer head with a top hat and a ghostly blue screen. Gregory slipped it over his wrist, concluding that it probably wouldn't hurt him. He looked back at the animatronic. Freddy was tall. He towered at the shortest height of 10 feet. Gregory noticed that he was shaking. He tried to stop it, but that only seemed to make it worse. He eventually gave up on the idea. "Simply tap the top of the top hat and press down after a gentle gesture. It should turn on and ask for your name." Gregory did as he was instructed, lightly tapping the top hat before pressing down. The screen grew in brightness, giving Gregory an instant headache. "Hello, new user. Please enter your name on the touchpad below." The voice was monotone with a faint level of sass. "The technicians use old code from a unit from the 1980s called Hand Unit. It may malfunction at this step. It happens quite often. Understand that this is an important step and cannot be changed later." Gregory tried to type in his name, but the screen glitched. "It seems that an error has occurred, and you were not able to enter your name. We understand what you were trying to type, and will autocorrect it for you. Welcome, Meat Pretzel." Gregory found himself laughing. It burned in his throat, but it felt nice not to be crying or something. "It does this more often than you would know. I apologize, Gregory. I have filed numerous complaints on customers' and employees' behalves." Gregory smiled. It doesn't even make sense as a name. He wasn't shocked, though. AI tended to do things like that, from the vague pictures in its mind anyway. "Some employees think that it is a comedic feature, though it is simply a flaw in its design," Freddy explained. He gestured to the watch, and Gregory let him see it. He tapped the touchscreen a few times, seeming to do something on it. He stopped, and Gregory reeled his arm back in towards himself. "You should now be able to communicate with me." Gregory nodded as he reached for the door that they had entered through. "Oh no, you cannot use that door. It is locked. It locks after I enter if it is within the time period between 8:15 and 9:15. Curiously, Gregory peered at the time on his wrist, jolting in horror. It was 8:47. There were only 13 minutes until the Pizzaplex closed. "There's only 13 minutes!" Gregory repeated aloud. Freddy nodded solemnly. "You will have to exit my green room from the vents." He gestured to a silver grate above his velvety couch in the corner of his room. It looked old and worn, as if the animatronic's furnishings became second priority. And Gregory bit his lip as Freddy continued. "I can get you a screwdriver to use in order to escape from the other end of it. I have some basic tools in my dresser just in case I get injured during the day and need to repair myself." He spoke as he dug through a drawer in his dresser. The clinks and scrapes of the metal and the wood inside of it burned through Gregory's ears. Eventually, he pulled out a screwdriver with a dull red handle and a slightly rusted metal shank and blade. "Wait, how do I know what it's called?" He shook it off. It was probably just common knowledge or something like that. Freddy grabbed something and began violently scrubbing the tiny bit of accumulated rust. "I do not want you to get tetanus or something of that ilk from the rust," Freddy justified. "So I just need to use it on one of the grates in the vent?" "It will be after 4 others. It is the last of 5. You will need to crawl as quietly as you can since the others are in their rooms, and we do not want any of them to start panicking over your being here. I know Chica might end up talking so much that you will miss closing." He chuckled. He sounded like a proud father. "All right," Gregory said submissively. After you release me from my green room, I can bring you to Officer Vanessa so she can— No! Gregory quickly interjected, earning only a shocked expression from Freddie. I can't. He took a deep breath, attempting to calm himself. I can't, he finally said. I have a bad feeling about her. I can't. She's off. I don't know what it is, but I need to trust my instincts. Or at least one of them, he thought. But he didn't elaborate on that to Freddie. All right. I do not want to make you uncomfortable. I will take you to the exit, though if we miss it, I might still have to get her help to open the doors. Wait, Gregory said, suddenly remembering the chip in his shorts pocket. Yes? I've found this in your system, he started, attempting not to agitate the giant bear. When I was inside of your stomach hatch, I could tell it didn't belong there. Freddie grabbed it out of Gregory's hands, the body part looking small next to Freddie's. He scanned it, the same blue light that had scanned Gregory, bathing the purple chip. Gregory shifted awkwardly, a bit uncomfortable. Freddie's face shifted into a confused frown. It is a foreign program. It overrides some of our safety protocols and— He shook his head, shoving it back into Gregory's hands. When you leave, you need to hand it over to the authorities. We cannot have this sort of technology within the Mega Pizzaplex. Gregory nodded. Freddie smiled, turning back towards the vent. Freddie removed the grate from the vent, Gregory's blood rushing at how easily he could remove the metal screws. He gestured toward the metallic tunnels and helped Gregory crawl into the opening. I will be awaiting your arrival at my green room door, Freddie chirped. Gregory, still hesitant, nodded and carefully slipped into the vents, heart pounding, head rushing, mind spinning. He did not like having to put his safety in the literal hands, or paws, of a giant metal animal he barely knew, and even that made it sound safer than it was. His stomach squirming like a fish on a lure and kneecaps quaking, he pressed his arms under the freezing metal, going slowly and carefully, attempting to be as quiet as he possibly could. He felt a small breeze on his right, and he noticed a split off into a slightly further section of the vent. He could see the purple light glimmering into the shaft. He turned to face it curiously, natural instincts simultaneously scolding him and pushing him to do it. You did perfect tonight! A rough, a little bit anyway, voice called, making Gregory jump a bit. He could tell by the purple glow in the iconic voice that it was Roxanne Foxtrot, though from what little Gregory could recall, she was supposed to be quiet and shy. She doesn't really seem that way right now, if you ask me. Your performance tonight was perfect! Your hair is beautiful. Everyone— She hesitated, the pause leaving room for her to hear him. Everyone was watching you. Everyone wants to be you. You are the best! She panted, sounding like a puppy or something. Thank you. I am the best. I am the best. Her voice faltered toward the end. She sounded like she was unsure, but she did not change her mind. Diva much? Gregory found himself thinking. I hate people like that. For some reason, it made anger rush through his veins. He continued his path through the dark ventilation shaft. Crash! Gregory practically had a heart attack. He thumped his head on the top of the metal tunnel, immediately reaching to massage the spot, but he didn't think anyone had heard him beyond the crashing coming from the next green room. He still tried to be quiet, but he was rushing. The next room after that, lit by pink LED strips, he could hear Chica playing her guitar in her room. Sounds pretty good, he admitted in his head. The last room, though, was by far the worst. It was completely silent, the red light sneaking into the vent, sparkling on the metallic surfaces. The disturbing lack of anything happening left Gregory an opening to be heard, something that he really didn't want or need. Gregory held his breath, chest tight as he tried his best to remain silent. Eventually, he got to the grate that he needed to exit through. He pulled out the screwdriver from his pocket, removing the screws carefully one by one. He gently set it aside inside of the vent, crawling out of the best he could, momentarily relieved to be out of the tight space. But then he filled back up with fear as he realized how vulnerable he was in the large open room. He searched, eventually finding a large sign, Rockstar Row. He shrugged it off, the cartoonish art of all the characters grinning too widely down at him. The pastel chicken with her guitar, the punk alligator with his bass, the cool-colored fox with her guitar, and the warm-colored fox with his drums. And of course Freddy Fazbear with his microphone. For a brief moment, Gregory's gaze lingered on Roxanne, the one who had been talking to herself. He cocked his head in the split second. He turned, however, heading towards the doors he and Freddy had entered through. He did not trust Freddy enough to bring him out. He would risk getting turned into Vanessa. But the red doors didn't budge. They just stood there, glaring at him, taunting him. They grimaced in his somber silence. He grumbled, walking to another pair of red doors, passing the various statues of the animatronics. He tried to open the doors, labeled maintenance tunnels in big, bold letters. But again, they remained unmoving. Gregory noticed a small keypad next to the door, and he realized that it was password protecting. Sighing, Gregory gave in, approaching Freddy's green room. He opened the orange metal door with a button beside it. It was just a small electric blue button. "Way to go, superstar!" Freddy cheered. Gregory felt his mouth twitch for a second, twisting into a smile for an almost non-existent moment. For some reason, out of all of the animatronics, Freddy gave him the most comfort. Freddy grinned, gesturing for Gregory to follow him. He approached a set of doors, the one labeled maintenance tunnels that Gregory had attempted to open, and entered a password so quickly that Gregory didn't have any time to comprehend it. "These are the maintenance tunnels," Freddy began. "They are used by our employees and staff bots during the day to quickly access our various attractions. Mazer-Size, Monty Gator Golf, Rockstar Oasis Sheriff Tag, and all sorts of other places, like Belora's Fitness and Flex, which is tucked away within the Chica's Mazer-Size attraction." Gregory nodded along, not really paying much attention to what Freddy was saying at all. "There isn't going to be a pop quiz, is there?" "And thanks to all of the maintenance tunnels, they are all interconnected, making it easier on our managers, us, and the technicians. It is how I got to a maintenance stall immediately after crashing on stage tonight." Gregory thought back to the locked door. It must have been what Freddy was talking about. He shrugged it off, allowing himself to get lost in his maze of thoughts. Then he noticed a strange wall. Something about it felt out of place. And he noticed a broken crate beside it and a shattered glass bottle. The rest of the walls were seemingly seamless, but this one stuck out for some reason. "Where is he?" a woman muttered from a small distance. "Here's Officer Vanessa," Freddy said, a strange flicker of shock behind his voice. "Let me back into your riding compartment," Gregory pleaded, hoping that the bear would let him in. "All right. I just do not want you to do this too often. I do not want you to become an actual meat pretzel." Surely enough, the bear opened the hatch on his torso and helped Gregory crawl inside. She wore a shirt similar to what Jack had, but it was white with black and red checkered straps attached to her black slacks. "Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown." "I am sorry, Officer Vanessa. I was trying to find you." Vanessa groaned, followed by a sigh, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Look, it's fine. I'm just having a really, really bad night, and now some kids decided to stay here after hours and sneak around backstage." It sounded like she was worried, tired, annoyed, and terrified all at once. Gregory felt a stab of guilt. The part of him that associated her with good memories wanted to crawl out and hug her, but fortunately he was smart enough to assume the bad until proven otherwise. Freddy gave Vanessa a weak, supportive tap on the shoulder, assumably trying his best to be gentle without making Vanessa feel like she was getting treated like a child. "If you see him, bring him to me or lost and found. Whatever is an easier option. I've already told the others, but I want you to go back to your room. I don't want you overworking yourself trying to help or find some kid." Freddy nodded. Vanessa headed out towards Rockstar Row, an agitated and worried expression creeping up on her face. "Thank you," Gregory breathed quietly once she was out of earshot. Freddy reopened the hatch and continued to guide Gregory. "Be careful of the others if they know about Vanessa. If we run into them, they might hold us back or even bring you to her." Gregory nodded absently, his mind wandering in and out of the tunnels. He looked around, barrels and crates and boxes lining the sides of the tunnels, dirt, grime, mildew, dust, and garbage gathered around the crevices in the concrete floor. Various sticks and plant pieces coated dingy concrete, all illuminated by more colorful LED lights, all in the same set of colors except there were a few broken periwinkle and heather purple neon lights, and some glowing caught Gregory off guard initially. But then he assumed that it might have been something he didn't know about. Maybe that Belora's Fitness and Flex thing that Freddy had mentioned. Outside of the doors leading to the lobby, crowds of customers and employees were still exiting, controlled by a robotic traffic guard wearing one of the red dress shirts with the checkered pattern. It had 2 purple lines beneath its eyes, and it was standing on 4 wheels. "Thank you. Come again," it said in a feminine, robotic, monotone voice. "Visit Freddy's Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex again soon." It mispronounced Fazbear, and Gregory was overwhelmed as giggles rippled through the crowd of people leaving the Mega Mall. Gregory felt his breathing begin to quicken. Large crowd. Danger. Get away. His irrational thoughts flashed. "I must stay in the tunnels. I cannot be seen by the employees and guests. I could get in trouble with the CEO and manager of the Mega Pizzaplex." Gregory's mind battled. "No, don't stay," one part pleaded. "We have to get out." "But the key to our identity is hidden here," another argued. "Wouldn't you rather figure out who we are?" The first voice thought simply, "Humph," before continuing, "We can come back tomorrow." Gregory decided to side with the first voice. It was dangerous to be here after hours with Vanessa on the loose. But still the obnoxious voices of the crowd punctured through Gregory like an unstoppable bullet. "Too many people," his mind cried. I have... Go on, superstar." Before Gregory even knew it, he had burst into tears, collapsing onto the ground. 2 sides of him constantly bickered and whined. His head was pounding violently at the sight of the crowd. His heart palpitated in his chest, and his legs were as weak as jelly. He was so done. He hated this. He hated this so much. He was hyperventilating. Again. "Oh no, people, adults, they'll put me back in." Gregory was seized out of his thoughts, which had felt simultaneously foreign and familiar, as an orange paw settled on his shoulder. His eyes were met by bright, ocean blue, glowing eyes. "You will be all right," Freddy reassured him. Gregory swallowed his fear. If he wanted to leave, he needed to do it now. So he left the tunnels briefly, glancing back. Up above them, on a loft behind a golden statue of Freddy that was reflecting the neon colors, was Vanessa. She had been leaving a set of doors labeled Superstar Daycare. Daycare? What had Vanessa been doing in the daycare? She looked flustered and rushed, attempting to rush out and into a pair of motion-sensing doors. Gregory had caught a glimpse of what seemed like 100 shades of purple and green and pink and orange. It had been where he regained his consciousness. The atrium, his brain remembered. He had been inside of the atrium. He turned back to the exit, and his mind halted. "I have to stay. Vanessa is up to something. I bet anything she had been the one to install that chip inside of Freddy." So, he tripped. Purposefully, though. He had stepped at an angle that his flopping shoe soles would catch right into a crease between 2 of the black tiles. The impact had hurt a tiny bit, but as he stood back up, the door closed, locking him inside. He was trapped. But it was a good thing. He needed to figure out who he was before a police officer or someone found him wandering the streets and brought him to some creepy building that kept flashing back into his mind's eye. He was safe from that fate, at least. "Superstar," Freddy's voice called over from the Fazwatch. "You have missed the exit just barely." "You don't say." "But it is possible to still leave early. If you can activate the security protocol, which is activated if there is an intruder remotely, you will be able to escape with a level 1 security badge. Vanessa has a level 10 badge, so you could... No, I can activate that protocol. And how do I do that? Triggering 6 remote sensors. 1 in Foxtrot Lane, 1 in Chica Street, 1 in Fazbear Square, 1 in Monty Marsh, 1 in the West Arcade, and 1 in the East Arcade. All you need to do is enter their main sectors to trigger them. An excuse to travel around the entire building to investigate my identity? It's perfect." "That sounds really inefficient," Gregory said instead, because it really did. Why would they make it that way? It seemed quite silly when it came to warding off intruders. Perhaps they had had other intentions behind it, though. Knowing the company, which Gregory kind of did, they probably did. "I have never understood it myself. I have filed probably a dozen complaints since it was implemented 4 months ago." Gregory smiled, a bit delirious. "Wait, I feel tired." Actually, he felt exhausted. "How long have I been without sleep?" Gregory sniffed and wiped his face, snot and tears coating his arm. Gross. "Freddy?" "Yes?" "Do you have any tissues or something?" "Oh, of course," he smiled, pulling out some paper towels. They were much softer in Gregory's hands than he anticipated. Gregory used them on both his arm and his face. He found himself looking back at the daycare entrance. "Does the daycare have a sensor?" "No, but it does have the daycare attendant." he said brightly. "He could help you out. He has snacks and stuff like that. He could even help you get to the atrium to access them. Just be sure to follow his rules," Freddie added afterwards. Freddie wandered away, leaving Gregory to question if he was actually going to return. Gregory stood in the awkward silence left by Freddie's exit. Freddie did return, holding a colorful piece of plastic in his giant hands. He held it out to Gregory and he read it. Daycare Pickup Pass, Annual Renewal Package. Useful to access the daycare up until the following expiration date. And underneath that was a date scrawled with Sharpie, the smell of chemicals only bothering Gregory's nose more. Gregory made it out. 01/11/2086. January 11th, his brain noticed, lingering on the detail for a moment. Just slide it over the scanner outside of the door and you can get to the daycare attendant. After doing as Freddie instructed, after climbing the deactivated escalators, the doors swung open, revealing a blindingly bright room with 6 separate vending machines, one for each character. Strawberry Sunshine for Chica, Glamrock Grape for Roxanne, Limonade for Monty, Pineapple Starfruit for a golden animatronic, Blueberry Raspberry for a blue animatronic, and Orange Burst for Freddie. The images of the characters were animated and full of life. Around the vending machines were various screens filled with flashing pictures, some of a blue animatronic with a candy called Moondrop, a drink called Soda-Roni, which sounded absolutely disgusting, and other attractions in the Pizzaplex, and even places that Gregory could only assume paid for advertising inside of the Pizzaplex. What stood out next was the dramatic fountain at the center of the room. It had a golden statue of the golden animatronic Gregory had seen on the Pineapple Starfruit vending machine. On its other side was a silver statue of the blue animatronic. For some reason, Gregory's mind blinked at both of their names. One of them is probably the daycare attendant that Freddie mentioned, Gregory deducted. Probably the golden one. It looked a lot more child-friendly and overall nicer than the blue one. The blue one looked calm, but gave Gregory a bad feeling. Also, its pose was very menacing. Taking a deep breath, he used his daycare pass to open the second set of doors, the ones that led to the actual daycare. He stepped inside, shaking only a little, which, if he was being honest, sort of shocked him. There was a large red net lining the wall, which was just an open space where the fourth wall would have been, opposite the door. It had clouds and stars interwoven in its design. The stars were hard to see, though. There was another statue, the same one that had been on the fountain's crown. The same 2 characters were there. Is one like an assistant or something? There were weird robots, all like the one that had been ushering people out of the Pizzaplex in the lobby, wearing periwinkle wigs, red circles as cheeks, and had purple button shirts with blue lightning bolts on their sides. They reminded Gregory of something. Was it an older character? Yes, one of Fazbear Entertainment's older characters, from the 80s or sometime around then. Something about the word circus rang a bell in Gregory's head. One of them turned to him, waving, making him jump. "Hello, may I help you?" it said. Its voice was calm, and that annoyed him, a lot more than it should have. Gregory avoided it, darting around it to get to a slide labeled, "Slide into Fun." He cringed a little. It was a bit of an obnoxious name. He stared at the rainbow sign for at least 15 seconds before he swallowed his nervousness and approached it. He dove in. "Have a fun day," the robot's voice called.
Way to go, Superstar!